Welcome to the Link Together Health podcast. My name is Link, and I'm very excited to introduce you today to our co-host, Georgia Murray. Georgia, welcome. How are you?
Thanks. I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Really well, thank you. It's a beautiful Monday morning. We're both fortunate to have the morning off, which is fantastic. So it's nice to actually touch base. Not that we don't talk most days anyway.
Yeah, true. Sorry about
George, today, we're just going to have a bit of a brief convo, bit of a catch up. You've had an absolutely wild weekend, but before we get into that, can you just summarize essentially what you do, who you are, and why you're a special person, especially to me, my family, and the brand Linked Together Health as well.
that. Wow, there's a lot of questions in that. But I, outside of doing this, I am a preventative youth mental health facilitator. So I go around to schools all over Australia and New Zealand and run workshops with kids in schools about their positive mental health and wellbeing. So that's where I spend most of my time. I met you when we both lived in Ballarat, and I went to the gym that you were working at for the first time. And then from there, just talked your ear off, and now your mum loves me. So part of the family.
You absolutely are part of the family, and you did somehow talk your way into getting a spare room off me for a duration, and we lived together earlier this year, which was, I'm sure, good for both of us. But yeah, you definitely weaseled your way into a spare room through our little connection, which is absolutely fine.
And then just became your favourite housemate. Sorry, Jack.
We'll have to have Jack on because Jack might say something about that. To be honest, we'll see.
I think he would agree.
George, tell me about this last weekend, the last 3 days, which has been absolutely wild for your family, yourself. It's been pretty insane.
It has been just like a whirlwind of a weekend. Dad got interviewed by Fox Footy late on Saturday night. So I'm going to steal some of his words because I struggle to articulate it. My family had one of my incredible cousins playing in his very first AFL Grand Final, which was incredible. His name's Kai. He has been playing for Brizzy for a couple of years now, or for 3 years now, but wasn't getting much game time over his first 2 years with injuries and just not getting selected, and I suppose building and growing as a player. But this year he's had a consistent spot, that was incredible in and of itself. And then to see him go all the way through the grand final, it was just incredible. So on Friday we were down watching him in the Hiluxes as part of the parade. And he absolutely loved it. Like, one of the videos I've got is he didn't even recognise that his family was there until the end. He's just like in and amongst the crowd and getting everyone excited. And then Saturday was the big day. And I don't even know, do you know what the score was in the end?
They won by 60 points.
Yep.
It was huge. Yeah.
Insane. So that would have been incredible just for him to be there. But he came out and kicked like two goals in 2 minutes. And when I personally think when Brisbane needed it the most. And then from there, he ended up kicking 4 and having 14 disposals, which was insane. Like, we thought if he just went there and played his role, it would have been great. But he exceeded that. And I cried so much, even after his first goal. I probably didn't stop for a while after that. But just so proud. Like, every time I think about it, I get emotional because I'm just so proud of that. The boy from Maryborough.
Literally, little country boy, and
Yep.
yeah, it was a phenomenal day for all those Brisbane boys, and like obviously the gym. I've had to do with a fair few of them, especially Lowy, over the last few years, and yeah, to see all 3 of the guys in that team get the reward was pretty special. And yeah, being obviously a family member for yourself, I have no doubt you're the only person I could actually. Everyone else didn't have a signal in there, but for some reason our Snapchats were sending through. So it was actually nice to get some of your messaging in. But yeah, I know how proud you and your family would have been for that 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then the celebrations that night would have been absolutely wild as well, no doubt.
Massive night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reckon everyone in the pubs that we went to after knew that Dad was Kai Lohmann's uncle, and Weedy, like everyone was just coming up to us, buying us shots, drinks, everything. So it was really incredible. But I think we're all, maybe except for Kai and Jake, all pretty well recovered now. But I
Yeah,
think
well, those boys will be topping up Mad Monday today. I'm sure they'll be all donning their fancy dress kits, Summer and Brizzy celebrating hard again.
don't know if I'm ready to see what he goes as.
Yeah, it could be an interesting kit, that's for sure.
Yeah.
George, you've had the last 3 months for both of us have been pretty massive in terms of just different things happening in life. A couple of moves. You moved down to Geelong for work from Ballarat. I've moved to Goldie. Talk me through that kind of move for you, what it meant to you, and for you to be now based in Geelong. How's that all going?
It was a strange move because when I moved in with you and Jack in Ballarat, and you probably remember me saying, I'm done with Ballarat. I just want to move out of here. But by the end of that time there, I actually really liked Ballarat again. So moving down to Geelong it's a step closer to everything for work. Don't have to travel most days, which I was doing. So that's been really great in that regard, but I've been traveling so much, so I haven't settled in here yet. And obviously playing netball every weekend and going back for training every weekend, it's been sort of like, this is where all my stuff is. But I haven't settled into living here yet. And I was actually talking to my mum about that, who put me into line very quickly, telling me that I need to go out and go to cafes and go to restaurants and meet people.
Socialise. It's okay to spread your wings a little bit.
Yeah, but it was like in year 12 in high school, living in Geelong and going to uni here was like top of my bucket list. It's all I wanted to do. And then moved down here. So it's a little bit surreal. It's gone a little bit of a longer path than I originally planned to getting here. But I think it's been like not having to travel and everything for work has just meant that I can actually invest a little bit more time in me. So that's been incredible. But I don't know if I'm done yet moving.
Okay. So where's your mind sitting at the moment in terms of that?
I love Victoria, but it's cold. And
Amen.
I don't look good when I'm real pasty. And so I think I've just come to a realization of like, this is really great for now, but it doesn't feel like home. So, and I haven't had that in a while, but I think I've always said that when it comes time that I want to have a family and everything, I don't want to have kids in Victoria. I want to do something different. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure yet. I'm open to anywhere and open to exploring what that looks like with work and all the places I can go. But I'm here for now, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, Gold Coast is always calling your name. As I'm looking out, it's 24 degrees, whatever it is, sunshine here. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, you make it look so bad with all your photos and videos. It looks terrible.
We actually had, funny enough, the grand final day. It was actually pretty wet and windy. So naturally, I didn't post anything on social media because I still need to keep up the false image that Queensland's constantly sunny and warm weather at all times.
Yeah, look, if you have one bad day, then that's fine. You deserve it.
I think it was literally maybe, I think I've seen rain up here. I've been here like 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
I think I've seen rain maybe twice, which is pretty insane.
Okay, whatever.
And it's still warm. Like, you can still train. I still naturally just train shirtless regardless, but you can still train outside. You just get wet rather than being wet and cold.
Yeah, well, that sucks. That sucks so much to hear because not our last netball game, but one before that, it hailed and it was icy and everyone's like, it's going to snow here. And I remember I sent you a video and you sent me back a video or a photo laying by the pool. So your life just looks so tough.
It's not bad at the moment, that's for sure. Touching on netball, you obviously had a pretty successful year. Talk me through the grand final and being a premier.
Yeah, it was an interesting. So we obviously went through all season undefeated, which was really cool. And then I was traveling for work, so I was away, and that was a weekend that we had our first loss in one of the finals. And it was to the team
Maybe
we ended up.
just way too much, George. That's what it was.
I have been away a lot, but that was the team we ended up playing in the grand final, and we ended up beating them by, I think it was like close to 20 points. So it was a great day. It was a cold day. It was in Ballarat, so it was a cold day, of course. But it was really cool. I think it was a great way to end a very successful year with a great bunch of girls that have all worked really hard throughout the season. I think it's probably the first like final series that I've gone into quietly confident that something's very wrong if we don't make it all the way. So that was really cool. But it was a big day. Like the atmosphere of finals footy and netball was awesome. Nothing like the weekend just gone. And Kai, the atmosphere for Kai, but it was incredible. I think all of the people like in our team and that were there supporting us and everything was really good. Like it's the country football and netball club feel that I'm not sure where else you get that. I know there's certain pockets, but certainly not the same. Like talking about potentially moving to Melbourne and stuff like that. And one of the things that I would have missed the most is that country football netball club feel.
Yeah, the community from a small country town, and like Ballarat's still big, but obviously it's still a country kind of league and whatnot. It's something else. We, after the grand final, us boys and the girls we made forced to watch, we put on our 2019 grand final replay, which we do after a couple of drinks generally. But yeah, the memories that I have from, and that day is so special for so many different reasons, but we love watching it because it's, uniting in a country town. I think for a long time of the year, like 6 months in Ballarat, you spent every weekend with your teammates, and to then finally stand up and receive your premiership medallion and the cup. It's something special that you can't really describe unless you've done it yourself. How do you handle? Obviously, you had those expectations of being quite successful this year from a team point of view. How do you handle that from a pressure side of things going into a big game like a grand final?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've sort of all through my netball so far had a very clear understanding. So Dad used to be a footy coach, and he made it very clear from a very early age that finals is anyone's game. So I think that was always in the back of my mind, like, oh, I feel confident that we should do pretty well. However, who knows, like everything changes in a final series. And so I think it was, and we spoke a lot about it as a team, of being confident in ourselves and our abilities in our team, but not expecting it to come to us, and knowing that we had to go out and each week was a 4-quarter effort, and knowing that, there's a lot of people, when you're undefeated for a season, there's a lot of teams that are ready to see you lose, and want to see you lose, and their supporters all around the ground want to see you lose. So I think it was just trusting in what we could control, but also that awareness that there's so many different things, particularly in finals, that are out of your control. There's a whole different game, like pressure from the crowd, pressure from each other, pressure that we put on ourselves, can just bring so many little errors here and there, and you start to lose those little 1% efforts that win a game, which I think is probably what happened when we played Sunbury the game prior. It's just all those little things. But I think it was a good lesson for everyone in the team. Of like, as long as we trust in ourselves, and at the club we talk about just going out and playing a 7 out of 10. So going out and playing your role, you don't have to be remarkable, but you've got to be reliable. And I think that helps to ease the pressure a little bit of like, there's so much happening on finals days, on even in the build up to it, even with injuries and things like that. So knowing that I've just got to go out and control what I can control. And if we all show up and we all do that, then we can't lose. So.
Yeah, that faith you have in your teammates to, do what their role requires of them is massive.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree. And you look at what happened on the weekend with Sydney. They were probably the best team all year, 100%. However, I think that they had 33 tackles for the game. So those little one percenters that you talked about, those kind of small little things that need to be done to create pressure and to put the other team under stress is, you can't be undenied that, like, that's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the game on the weekend really just highlights that no one expected it to go that way.
I picked Sydney to, like, I wanted Brisbane to win, but I would have had Sydney winning by like 10 goals, to be honest. I think on their best day, like,
Yeah.
they are a much better side. But as you said, what happens in finals can, it's a 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a coach when I played for a different club who would always say that, like, to get to this point, like, everyone's worked their butt off. You can't say that we've worked harder to be here, because if you're in the last few rounds of finals, everyone's worked that hard to be there. But it's about how much, like, you want it and how much you're willing to, or how hard you're willing to work to execute those things, and the small little game-winning moments.
I remember thinking to myself in 2019, we're going to always flash back to this moment because it was fucking awesome. But I remember saying to myself, I am willing to die to play my role today. Like, that was my mindset going, and that's a very extreme mindset, which summarizes me pretty well. But like,
Surprising.
I just knew I would be happy if that was the case, as long as we got the win. Like, I would have done anything just to make sure that we executed our game plan and we got the win that day. And I think it's what Brisbane did incredibly well on the weekend. It's what you guys would have done the weekend before on your netball ground here. And I think it's what, separates the true best teams at this time of year in regards to, whether it's team sports or even individual sports as well. That mindset is huge.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing we did a little bit of work with, like a mindset and team leadership organisation. And everything that it came back down to was the only thing that's in your control is your mindset, and that will determine everything else. And I think sport teaches you a lot of lessons for life, and that's something that I've definitely carried with me.
And it's funny that we talking about that mindset. We had a conversation, I think it was started last week, just about something you said and how, like, you preach it consistently in your role at work, and then actually, however, implementing it yourself. Like, it's very good at telling someone to do this certain mindset, but you actually doing it yourself is completely different as well. But until you actually start to process and put in places these little step-by-steps, then that mindset you can actually achieve.
Yeah, and I think it's so much easier sometimes in other people because you can see or understand, like, the events that have created their beliefs. Sometimes I think we go through things and you don't expect that it will have that much of an effect, but it actually ends up determining or becomes a belief that just determines how you behave. So, I think sometimes it's a lot easier to look at other people and be like, oh, that makes sense as to why you do that and why you're that way. And then and that's one of the things that I talk about with my colleagues at work all the time. So much of the work that you do when you're helping other people is like holding up a mirror to yourself, and you probably feel that as well in the work that you do, but it holds up a mirror and highlights some of your really great strengths, but it also highlights a lot of areas that you need to grow and improve on if you want to be authentic in what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. And that's why, like, I think the reason why we're in the roles that we are in is because we obviously like passing on our knowledge and helping others, but it's, at the same time, it's like, when we work, it's also therapy for ourselves to get us to where we want to be as well.
Yeah.
Which is massive.
And not always easy. Sometimes it would be very easy just to walk home from, or finish the day of work and not have to reflect or build on anything. But
and that's the beauty of being an overthinker as well.
Yeah, which you are one of. Yeah, absolutely.
Both are. We both are. Yeah. George, talk me through what the next 3 months, 4 months kind of looks like for you in 2024, and what are you looking forward to, and what are you hoping to get done?
It's a really great question. Traveled a lot this year, and which is absolutely incredible, and the experience that brings is phenomenal, but that means that there's not really much consistency with routine. So as much as I really love traveling, I am really excited for the next few months. The weather's starting to warm up. It's lighter earlier in the morning here, and I can spend some time just being consistent with things. Like I've got a stack of books that I want to read. So many things like with my health that I want to become more consistent with as well. So I think this next few months is just going to be a great period for settling. Interesting word choice. But
Yeah.
yeah,
One of my most hated words of all time.
as soon as I said it, I was like, oh no.
Different context. Different context.
Yeah, but just like getting into a routine and being able to actually stick to it is probably something I'm the most excited for. And work starts to, because we work in schools so much, starts to quieten down as it gets to the end of term 4 and start of holidays as well. So got some time to really invest into myself, which I'm excited for. And yeah, I also I'm really excited to start to be able to spend some more time with family and friends and everything. Make the most of that in the next couple of months. But I would say consistency and routine in all aspects, which is really cool. What about you?
Yeah, sounds cool. I'm very structured, as you know already, and I think my routine's pretty good. But I got a pretty cool opportunity up here to start working with my sprint coach Brett, the Vikings Athletics. I'm going to do some work for him as part of their business, which is really cool. So working with some athletes coming up, junior athletes coming up, which is going to be amazing. So that's term 4 program. And then, in terms of just general life, like I think I feel settled now that, 6 weeks in Goldie, we're in a new place altogether with my housemates and I. So we moved from our initial place that we were in, now in one that I feel is more of like my home, rather than me being in their home.
Yeah.
So I think like from a lifestyle point of view, that's all sorted. And then, my training's going really well. I'm obviously mainly focusing on that sprinting, but also doing some hybrid stuff. I'm getting faster, which is, to think at 32, I'm going to drop my age there as quite old, but I feel, the fittest and strongest that I probably ever have, which is, if we think about life philosophies, that's one of my biggest one, is that every year I try to be better than last year. Continue to kind of cement those routines in, get after it, train really hard. I can't wait to see some family soon. It's been a while since I've seen my little niece and whatnot, so it'd be nice over the summer break to obviously catch up with them and to hang out. And we'll probably catch up a couple of times when I'm back down in Vic. In terms of big picture stuff, we're just focusing on growing this brand, growing the business, and seeing what we can do in this space, which I think is really cool.
Is that easier to do from Gold Coast, do you think?
I think what I've noticed since moving here is that every single day I wake up and the sun's out and the temperature's warm, I feel empowered to take on the day, if that makes sense. I feel empowered to work really hard to get things done. Like, I don't know, it's just so different up here, and I feel everyone up here is the exact same, to be completely honest. They all feel the same way. Like, all my tradie mates are up early, they go to the gym, they go to work, they knock off, they'll probably go to the beach. Like, they fill their days because the weather's so good and it empowers you to make the most out of life. And I think from a business point of view, it's exactly the same. Like, I feel empowered to grow the business, to do the hard yards, to do the admin, do all the training programs and nutrition programs for everyone. Whereas in Victoria, I think it's very easy to settle and get into some bad habits when it comes to actually putting in some effort. But I think that's purely because of the weather. Like, I don't know what it is. I 100% agree in like seasonal depression now. Like, we always joke about it in Ballarat, like that's a thing, but I 100% now truly believe that is a thing. And I would have definitely had seasonal depression for 6 months, 7, 8 months of the year while living in Ballarat because of the weather. Like, as much as I thought I was enjoying life, it's just next level when you're in sunshine constantly.
That's cool. Can I only imagine what that would be like?
Hey, look, I've had this conversation with a lot of people recently. Like, you can do it. You can make that move.
All right, well, I'll be there tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Catch the next flight. George, thanks for catching up from the video podcasting side of things. It's always nice to chat to you. We're going to do plenty of these in the future because I think you have a lot of incredible things to pass on to a wider community. And then I hopefully also believe the same in what I do as well. And we'll get some really cool guests on, and yeah, we'll have some good episodes on here, no doubt. We'll actually dive into some really deep conversations and everything about mindset, health, fitness, absolutely everything. So thank you very much for joining today, and I can't wait to chat to you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure.